All right, let's go ahead and kick off. Hey everyone, thanks for joining. My name's John, senior software engineer with 10 years of experience, and I'm also the lead maintainer of Latterly.io. That's the website in front of us. It's an educational platform and a social community that is going to help you land your first or next programming role. You can sign up for free. It's open source. You can join the Discord. If I don't get to your questions today during the stream, you can always ask at the Discord. And it'll give you access to this standard checklist, has a step-by-step walkthrough to help you land your first programming role. You can also unlock additional services starting at $1 a month or book a personalized consult. Personalized job search advice can easily provide you 10 times better job search performance for your particular job search compared to average advice targeted to the general population. Okay, so what are we doing today? Today we're doing tech blogging, and GPT-4 is a really great use case for a tech blog. And basically, it's the end of the day. This is after 9 p.m. Eastern. My brain is sort of drained, and what I would like to do is I would like to be able to brain dump into a language model and provide it an example of a blog article I've done in the past and ask it to format my brain dump into a proper blog article and use it as a rubber ducking tool to iteratively revise from there. GPT-4 is great for this. You could also use a Claude and Opus. And the purpose for this blog is due to my upcoming attendance on the Dev Amplifier podcast. So shout out to Byron Summerdahl. Am I saying his last name right? Host of the Dev Amplifier podcast. I will be on there soon, and I will be talking about the topic, choosing your next skill to learn. How do you choose the next skill for you? We just talked about booking a personalized consult, and this question is an example of tailored personalized analysis. You could do this in the aggregate. You could say, like, the median software engineer, what's the next skill that would be a value add for them? But it's going to be much more valuable for you to do this on a personal basis. What is your personal gap, and how do you maximize your return on investment? So learning a skill, the lens here, I have a PhD in economics. The lens I'll be providing is that learning a skill is an investment. It's an investment of time, potentially of financial resources, and also of effort. And that you want to treat it as an investment, doing things like optimizing the return, and also adjusting for risk, importantly, as well as considering time preference and your available schedule. All of these will help you identify an optimal next skill to learn. Alfredo, welcome. Alfredo says, you consider learning .NET and C# worth it today? Let's go find out. Let's check Indeed.com. So the question will be, what skills do you already have? You're going to want to start with JavaScript. If you already know JavaScript, maybe you're asking about an additional skill, and so you would look at the marginal return. But here we can see 14K plus jobs. This is a US search. And now let's look for C#. 13K plus jobs. Nothing to sneeze at. It's nothing to sneeze at, but it's smaller. It's a smaller number. Now, what if I check Python? 38K plus jobs. So I recommend full stack web development. One of the problems with searching Python, you'll see data analyst. So it's multiple job families under this language moniker. Getting a job in data science is really hard if you don't have a formal education. And if you do have a formal education, you might want a different degree. You might want stats, econometrics, something else, rather than computer science or software engineering. Anyway, I can go into the reasons for it, but basically I recommend full stack web development for most people. And then the question will be, so then you'll need to have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So the question is, where do you go from there? As a web developer, it's a fantastic addition to your resume to add TypeScript. It also improves your developer experience. Stack Overflow Developer Survey consistently over the past 5 years has indicated that TypeScript is a most loved language. People love using it. People don't so much love using JavaScript. JavaScript is sort of the necessary evil of web. So if you have JavaScript, I would suggest, not just for financial reasons, yes, for financial reasons, but also for quality of life reasons, add TypeScript. Once you've got TypeScript, I'm going to encourage you to go for Python. And the reason is right in front of us. It's the job count. It's the job count. Now, granted, this 38 number is inflated because it includes data analyst, data science, and even some roles like IT will sometimes ask for Python for scripting. So if you're going to be a software engineer, that 38 is inflated. But let's just say you cut it in half. If you flip a coin, okay, why cut it in half? Because cutting something in half is the risk minimizing modification to a naive binary problem. So if you flip a coin, is it going to be heads or tails? The answer is it's going to be 50% heads, 50% tails. So you can see that just like cutting it in half is a simple adjustment that you can do. So if I say, hey, 38,000 is too much, what is the right number less between 0 and 38,000? We don't know, but a pretty good guess is cut it in half. Cut it in half. So that 19K would still be bigger by a long shot compared to the C#. Compared to the C# 13K, it's going to be like 50% more. 50% more. Also, I think a lot of these C# jobs will be quote unquote full stack C#, which means that they're going to include JavaScript. So you might be qualified anyway on the basis of already knowing JavaScript. And then we draw this hard line between data analysis, data engineering, software engineering. But that hard line is pretentious. It's not quite true. The line is much softer in reality. So that if you are a software engineer with data engineering skills, you're much more appealing even as a software engineer to the employer. So that's another reason that even if we deflate the 38K to 19K on Python, Python is going to be valuable for an additional orthogonal reason compared to the job count, which is it's going to improve your profile even as a software engineer, not programming in Python, but as maybe a TypeScript developer who also knows a bit about data ops. This is like an orthogonal reason it makes you look good. So C# is not at the top of my list in terms of recommendations, but you can also do a whole lot worse. I mean, look at this 13K and let's compare something like, I don't know, Scala. Scala was trendy a couple of years ago, wasn't it? No one's hiring for Scala these days. So C# will improve your hireability. I don't think it would be the optimal choice. I think there are better things you can do. And so that would be the reason that I recommend something else like a Python. But it's not like a very bad choice. It's just like an opportunity cost thing. In terms of the absolute benefit, it is beneficial. It's definitely beneficial. And you'll also consider like different target employers. So C# is super, super popular on the Windows, Microsoft side of the house. You know, in software engineering, we have like a fair divide between Windows world and Linux and Mac and so on. So if you were targeting Microsoft, C# has a slightly heavier weight, doesn't it? What do you recommend for full stack, MERN stack? No, I don't. It's at laterally.io, y'all. Sign up. Juan of all scripts. I know you've been on a lot of the streams. Thank you so much. You should just check out. It's just free. Just go check it out. You'll know by the time you get to the third lesson. Jeff Bezos says, what if I'm interested in quant? Then C languages and Python are going to be your go-to. User 534, I have a 4 years of experience, no degree, but I work at a big bank. Could I get an interview at Google or Meta? Absolutely, yes. You're going to need to socially network. Please don't throw your resume out into the void that is a cold application without getting a referral, contacting a hiring manager. Recent statistic that I saw said that for the industry average, Google's going to be harder than average, but at the industry average, a cold application has a 1 in 152 chance of being selected for interview. And that a referral-based interviewing with a referral, is tenfold better. So get a referral. May you list some free resources for beginner programmers. Yep, right in front of us, latterly.io. Throw some likes on the video, y'all. A bunch of people are asking for stuff where the answer is Latterly. So we should spread it around, eh? We should spread it around if it's the answer people need. Vic, welcome, Vic. Thank you for the rose. Vic says, what's the top demand skills 2024 going forward and pays the top? These are very different questions, Vic. Getting a job for sure. Risk adjusting your job search. You're going to want to do more common skills like a JavaScript or a Python. Getting the most highly paid jobs will involve uncommon skill. It will involve uncommon skill. So for that reason, if you learn a specialty, so a specialty would be to pick up an uncommon skill. If you learn a specialty, you will be making a gamble. You will be doing something that is risky for higher reward. Once you risk adjust that, it's not much better than an ordinary skill. So the trick here is to approach it as a pyramid, to start with a safe skill, get your foot in the door, specialize later, and pick a specialty which is additive onto your base skill. And so that even if you deflate it for risk, it's still valuable because it's not competing with your base skill. It's additive. Did that make sense? So I'm going to point you right back to the advice I've already given, which is full stack, JavaScript, then TypeScript. I would encourage you to learn Python after that. Now, if you already have all of those and you're asking, what about the next skill after that? Things do start to get interesting there, because once you unlock Python, now you potentially have access to AI ML world. And if you're asking about now and in the future, it seems like you're asking about forward-directed trends, and AI ML is on top in terms of forward-directed trends. Jeff Bezos says learn Rust. I mean, I think it's a joke, but let's just address that real quick. You don't want to learn Rust if your goal is to get a job. Rust is a great language. It's super useful in certain niche cases. I'm a big fan of a tool called Rough. Rough linter is implemented in Rust. I brought this into my recent company and improved our linting performance by over 99%. Fantastic tool. You're not going to get a job by learning Rust or Rough. You're just not going to get a job that way. It might be an interesting play after Python, right? So if you learn full stack, JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, and you're like, well, now I know Python, what's another language level addition? Rust could be interesting. I'm not sure that it's optimal, but it could be interesting, and it would be differentiated for sure. It would be a value add. I would question whether it's better than C++, because once you start to go into AI ML world, C++ becomes extremely valuable, because under the hood of a lot of these learning tools, whether it's XGBoost or other related tools, the only way you really do better than Python is kind of the standard bar in data science world. The only way that you do better is by going into C++ and optimizing on performance. So I would also have a heavy look at C++, but yeah, maybe Rust. I think Rust will bias you into developer tooling. So that's another element of this game, is when you specialize, try to pick a target role rather than a target tool. If you pick the tool blindly, you might be pigeonholed into a role that you were surprised by. Listen to that again. If you pick a tool blindly without considering the role, you might end up forcing yourself into a role that you didn't intend. And Rust could be one of those cases where Rust is a great tool. It has some niche use cases. It's becoming relatively popular for things like Rough in front of us. These are developer tooling. So if you're big into developer tools, maybe Rust is exactly what you want. But if you're trying to get into ML, Rust is not going to help you, right? Rust is not going to help you. I thought Python just better than Rust. Yeah, I would not just say Python is flat out better than Rust. You need a whole lot more nuance than that. It's going to once again depend on your goals. And I don't know if you recently joined, but the advice I've been giving here is JavaScript, TypeScript, then Python. And the question would be, is Rust nice after that? So in this hypothetical, they're not even compared to one another because you already have Python. Rice and Rise, you need to understand concepts. You need mathematical knowledge. The era of coding blindly is over. I'm going to push back on that. You don't need deep mathematical knowledge to become a software engineer. Maybe you were talking about AI ML. Then that might be a fair point. Yeah. I do believe that a data scientist who doesn't have a certain level of statistical understanding is a positive danger, not just a poor candidate, literally a dangerous candidate that if they happened to stumble into a job, they could inflict positive damage on many people if they're placed into the role of a data scientist with a poor technical understanding of certain statistical effects. All right, let's get back to the main thing here, which is we want to use GPT-4o for blogging. Okay, cool. That was a great tangent, y'all. Feel free to sign up at Latterly, join the Discord community if you have more questions that I have yet to answer. All right, so here is the GitHub issue that we're working on. And my approach is to make a markdown blog article. So Latterly already has a blog. Bunch of really great stuff here. You can see up at the top, at least 10 networking tips. If we switch to VS Code, these blog articles are markdown files under the blog folder, under the pages directory. Let me confirm what branch I'm on. So I'm on the main branch here. That's cool. Couple candidate branches. I could make a dedicated feature branch for this. I could also push it into this migrate air UI. Which I'm partial to. I'm partial to putting it in here because I want to get this guy in because this guy's been hanging for a while. Initial PR was 2 weeks ago. It's time that thing got merged in. So this was intended to work towards Stripe interop, but it's not going to be able to close it. So we'll just say it partials number 63. And we'll say it closes number 213, which is choosing your next skill to learn. Thanks for the follow. Okay, so here I'm going to git check out this. I'm going to git pull, already up to date. I'm going to git fetch origin main, git merge origin main. I'm expecting a one file conflict. Should be a quick fix here on this one file conflict. There was a different pull request that got merged. Shout out to my contributors. Thank you so much. Again, Latterly is open source. And I am more than happy to resolve conflicts if you are kind enough to solve an open issue. Okay, so here, just collapse a bunch of these. I'm in a VS Code multi-root setup. Here we go. Grandpa, GitHub issues link. So it's going to be the current one, 213 for this blog article right here. This is under the content or curriculum epic. If you're new to, like, if you're relatively junior and you want to get an open source contribution under your belt, look for this content or curriculum epic. It's very it's a lot of markdown. It's a lot of markdown stuff. You don't need to be super technical to be able to solve one of these. And this one in particular, this next local storage blog walkthrough, it's also marked as high priority. So if you want to write this one up, that would be a huge value to the community. It's been requested by the audience, that walkthrough. Okay, so I'll close these. We love closing tabs. So much fun to close tabs. Cool. Good. The Bean says, congrats, brother. Thank you, The Bean. You know VB62? I know I was a team lead for a team of Visual Basic programmers, but that was like, it's got to be like 8 years ago if I remember correctly. So please don't quiz me on it. Okay, so here's a conflict. I think the main difference will be the underline. Excuse me. Oh, I guess the copy also changed. Need to create an account, sign up here. Cool. So I guess that resolves the conflict. Let's do an npm run dev. Check it out. Oof. No, it's not a big deal at all. Super easy. We love Tailwind. Look at that style right there. All you got to do is add an underline. That's a Tailwind class. Ooh, I really don't like this flash here. Ooh, flash of terrible content. That's part of the app router upgrade. That loading page needs to be changed. Did I write that down here? I'll go ahead and close 257 in this. And then I'll put a to-do, fix flash of unstyled content like loading. I think I don't want to put that here, actually. I think there's a different issue for this. I think it's going to be the follow Blitz v2 follow on issues. Yep. Yeah. Loading. Okay. So it's already there. It's already there. If it's in the backlog, we don't have to solve it now. Love that. So here's localhost. I'm verifying the merge conflict is resolved by going to my login screen as the intent. So here we go to the login screen. Let me go back to home. That took longer than I wanted it to. So go here, click login. Cool. Need to create an account, sign up here. So there's the underline. That's what we want to see. Forgot your password should be similarly styled. So let me add a class name underline over there. Cool, cool. Did you forget your password? Yeah, I did. Let's go see what that page looks like. Make sure all three of these look similar. Okay, this is cool. Grandpa got the link. Awesome, good job. Back to home, do I want to add a back to login over here? I guess this is not a super big deal. Sign up over here. Already signed up, log in here. We need to up the style on that one. So we get the login form, the sign up form. Already signed up. It's under source auth. Ooh, we got 2 sign up forms, eh? Already signed up, log in here. Thanks, I hate it. Okay, so here is class name. That's easy. Now I'm going to do 2 commits. We'll commit this. Really, I should have split up the merge conflict resolution. I don't know, whatever, it's fine. Look at that ugly flash too. You see that? Email, email, password, password. And then the style pops in later. Okay, so this is like good enough. This is good enough. I would like it if forgot your password went back to one of those auth experiences, but it's good enough and we can refine it later. So here, we'll push that merge commit. Clickable elements should have hover states. Yeah, let's see. I don't know. I'm not convinced about that. I'm not convinced about that. The web native is that they have underlines, right? So our links, no. I'm going to strongly disagree on that. As an impaired user, I gain an affordance that an element is a link if it's pre-underlined, not if it's underlined on hover. So yeah, gonna disagree on that. I mean, here I'll Google it too. Are links, like how do I phrase this question? Is it better to underline links on hover or all the time? We could bring this over to ChatGPT as well. So like you can ask the question and I guess Stack Overflow will have answers, but also the web native experience is that they're underlined by default. So I don't really even need to ask the question. I can just, like, I can see it's underlined by default. If you don't underline them, make sure they look obviously clickable. Maybe buttons should have hover states. Yeah, a button should have a hover state for sure. Well, maybe not for sure. It should look obviously clickable. That's the way it is. So a button should look like a button. And if there's any question around it, a hover state might help. Grandpa says, if you're mobile first, underline is enough of a signifier. Yeah, that's great. I mean, mobile first, hover is weird, right? You get the tap interaction. And it's really like hovering is like when you're hold tapping. And most people, like if you're hold tapping, you're not even really able to see at that point. Like you want to see it before that point. Okay, so in any case, good convo on accessibility. Love to see it, but I think that is relatively unrelated to the current scope. So we got our merge commit in. So here's this pull request. It's building fine. That's awesome. That's awesome. And now let's make a blog. So how do I make a blog in this current setup? I want to go make a markdown form. Pages, blog. Here I'll click an existing blog, close others. Let's pull up the most recent one. That's going to be at least 12 networking tips. The files are named by date. And so what's today? June 12th, 2024. 06. Yes, I did just count the months on my fingers. Brock, thank you for the follow. Rupert Simpson, thank you for the follow. So 2024-06, it's the 12th. And then some short slug about the topic, and this will be selecting your next skill.md. Is this Next.js? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's super mad because I shouldn't have an empty markdown file. That's fine. I will do one of these. By the way, if you contribute a blog article, you get your name in the author line. Aren't you incentivized now? If you weren't going to blog before, now you're definitely going to blog, right? And the title here will be choosing or selecting your next skill to develop. Dan says, what are you showing us? Sorry, I missed the start. Hey, no need to apologize, Dan. Thanks for being here. We are using GPT-4o to help create a blog article on the Latterly website. So here I've just made the heading metadata so that this page will properly show. But if I click into here, it should just say to do. Yeah, it just says to do. So we'll make a markdown file using GPT-4, and we're going to use a one-shot prompt. So multi-shot prompting is a bit of a misnomer because you can do a one-shot prompt and it's still multi-shot prompting, loosely speaking. The number of shots is the number of templates examples you provide to the tool, okay? And so here I will be providing just one blog article. I could give it two, but like, I don't think it matters. So that's the name of the technique we're doing here. We're using GPT-4o with a single shot. And then we're going to go back and forth. And basically I'm able to word vomit to GPT-4o, and it reduces my cognitive overhead because I don't need to be meticulous around my grammar, around my wording. I'm going to just sort of brain dump, and GPT-4 will use the template to make a well-formatted blog article. Then I'm able to review it and we can revise as needed. But it basically makes blogging easier. And blogging well easier. It's not like a facilitation with a massive loss of quality. So here I'll say, consider the below example blog article. I will give you a different, let's do role task. Role, you are an expert writer for web content. Situation, we will, or like, Latterly already has an existing blog. John, an author at Latterly, has an upcoming podcast. He would like to add a new blog article to clarify his thoughts. To clarify and communicate his thoughts, his talking points for the podcast. Okay, so role, situation, task. Consider the below. So this is like a role prompt, sort of prompt technique. Dan says, are you able to profit from this? I mean, not really. Not really. My revenue at Latterly is like $600 year to date. And I've put in easily 100 hours. So it's a terrible, like the idea here is not to earn a living this way. That's not, it doesn't work for that in today's state. Maybe in a future year. I would like to get it to a place where it can at least pay for its own hosting. That would be nice. So yeah, tips are welcome and encouraged. If you want to visit latterly.io, you can leave a tip securely through Stripe. Grandpa, have you seen this thing? You could win 5K. I have not seen this thing. Twilio challenge. I mean, maybe. Like, what do I care about it? 5K is not a lot of money to me. If it's something that I care about, Twilio, maybe. Twilio does some good stuff with like push notifications and stuff. I don't have a mobile app. Maybe I should make a mobile app. Making a mobile app for 5K feels like a lot of work. I don't know. Maybe. It's Twilio and AI. Yeah, again, like where's my incentive? I don't know. Like it could be fun. It's just like I have a whole lot of stuff to do. That's the thing. Like it's not a laziness thing. It's literally my schedule is crowded. I have background blur on, but if you could read this stuff, like I'm booked, bro. I am actually booked. I don't know if you can, is it team based? If it's like a hackathon thing, if you want to get 4 people together, pull up to the Discord. I'll allocate some time. But I don't have like a ton of time that I can just do whatever with. Okay, so we'll consider the below example blog article. I will give you a different topic and you will help me turn it into a well-formatted markdown blog article. Ooh, I really hate this. GPT-4o has been doing this a lot to me. It did not happen in GPT-4 before the Omni model. It just writes a huge amount of narrative when my instructions are you basically shouldn't proceed. Maybe I need to be a bit clearer. Do not draft an article until I have provided the additional content. Instead, simply state that you are ready to receive the added information. It would have done that automatically with the prior GPT-4, I believe. Okay, much better. Grandpa says you can for sure, team-based. Cool. Yeah, again, if you want to get a group together, then I'll consider joining and contributing. I wouldn't want to drive it though, so let me know. It's been doing that. It's trying to eat all the requests. That's an interesting way to put it. What do you mean by that? GPT-4o isn't as good as GPT-4, but just faster. I believe it. Isn't the token window also larger? At least in the Chat GPT UI. If you're using the API, then I think I don't know that that's true, but I think the token window was increased in the Chat GPT UI. Okay, so here I am. I'm ready to receive the added information. Okay, the new article is on the topic selecting, what did I call this? Selecting your next skill to develop. Here are some basic notes that you can assemble into the article content. I also encourage you to ask probing and clarifying questions as needed in order to generate a coherent and highly valuable article. Okay, notes. Laterally encourages full stack development as a skill baseline. This involves learning in order HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Referring to the tokens using more, even if you ask a yes or no question, give you a long explanation. Right. It does do that. It does do that. 2, laterally encourages learning TypeScript as an added skill after building a full stack portfolio. Let's see. I should say this slightly differently. Laterally encourages full stack development as a skill baseline. This involves learning in order HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Laterally encourages you to begin the job search. Once you have a portfolio of the big 4 projects on GitHub. The job search is its own skill set. Practice interviewing and social networking in order to develop them as their own skills. Oh, also search. Laterally encourages full stack development as a skill baseline. This involves before coding. Laterally also encourages you to develop search skills. These skills will help you learn anything needed later. Anything needed later, whether or not those later skills are related to the laterally curriculum for the job search. So shouldn't search skills be number 1 then? Yeah, they should. And if you look at the checklist, this is just a brain dump that's not done well. But if you look at the checklist, it's before search techniques are done before HTML. So, okay, maybe I should rewrite this. Laterally encourages full stack web development as a skill baseline. This involves learning in order search techniques, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Is that a bit better? I guess that's a bit better. Thanks for the call out. Tim, thank you for the follow. Laterally encourages you to begin the job search once you have a portfolio of the big 4 projects on GitHub. The job search is its own skill set. I can combine these, I guess. You will need to develop, you should develop time management, communication, and social networking skills as part of the job search. The mental model for recommendations, the mental model for, maybe I should do these even prior to 1. Yeah. Latterly recommends you obtain skills in order to, like, let's just say start by defining your own goals. Remember that personalized planning is highly likely to result in superior performance compared to a plan built on population built on practices optimized for the average of some population. What are the big 4 projects? You can check it out over here. The big 4, they're basically 3 blogs and in a capstone. A vanilla blog, a next blog, a capstone, a portfolio site. Okay, there you go. You can optionally do a third blog, which is in between these two, which uses local storage for authentication instead of authentication based out of a Postgres instance. You good? Welcome, welcome. Usernamed you good. One of our regulars here hops in with the trademark use code forces. Okay. Maybe I need to make a prequel to 1. So laterally, the advice, the skill selection problem, let's say John and Latterly treat the skill selection problem as an investment problem. That is a killer way to start, isn't it? ChatGPT should not know what the big 4 projects are, but I have prompted it to ask probing and clarifying questions as needed. So I expect that it will ask me to clarify that. This is another prompting technique. When I prompt GPT-4, I sometimes seed my prompts with tests so that I can ensure that ChatGPT-4 has not kicked off a hallucination snowball. Once GPT starts hallucinating, it goes downhill really fast. One of the ways that you can make sure that it is not hallucinating is by asking it questions to which you already anticipate or know the answer, or you already have an expected outcome. This is somewhat akin to what happened with my initial prompt. My initial prompt generated a narrative response that I didn't want. I immediately knew that I didn't want that response, so I go back and I tweak my prompt. Then it behaves correctly, then I'm encouraged to proceed. I'm confident to proceed. You can do this in different ways. I went back and edited the prompt. I could also have created a chain of thought, a following prompt to correct it, to course correct. How do I choose which technique? How do I choose when to chain of thought versus when to course correct? As a general rule, I do not like to proceed on a hallucinated context. I do not like to proceed on a hallucinated context. I like to do a chain of thought when the context is non-hallucinated yet unrefined. So I like to use a chain of thought technique where we're going back and forth whenever we're drilling down and iterating and refining, but we're on the same page the whole time. As soon as GPT indicates that it is living in another realm, and it starts to talk about histories which have never transpired to my knowledge on this plane, I immediately hit the escape button and I'll make a new thread. I don't even want to exercise that context window. I want to maintain a error-free and pristine context window to the best of my ability. DSSX says, definitely need to be specific with your prompts. I keep it all in the same thread. Interesting take. Thanks for the feedback. Okay, so John and Latterly treat the skill selection problem as an investment problem, as an investment decision, as an investment problem. Optimization criteria an optimal skill is that skill which maximizes your return on investment to time, money, and effort, adjusted for risk, and perhaps adjusted for like utility, like fun. Adjusted for risk and leisure. That would be a more academic way to put it. Adjusted for risk and leisure. To reduce this complex problem, to reduce this complex optimization, let's just say Latterly. Latterly treats the skill selection problem as an investment problem. As an optimal investment problem. An optimal skill is that skill which maximizes your return on investment to time, money, and effort, adjusted for risk and leisure. To reduce this complex optimization, Latterly recommends a multi-stage approach where leisure is considered last. Basically, the student will select for a skill on other criteria, or even identify a ranked list of skill. Is there a dash in ranked list? A ranked list of skills. Then can eliminate top choices for reasons of like it's not fun, like low leisure discounting as subjectively desired. Okay. So now I just need to deal with time, money, and effort. To deal with time, dealing with time is also its own stage in the step selection process. A student will first generate a list of valued skills, then estimate the effort per skill, then rebalance the list or eliminate those skills which require excessive time and effort when compared to the student's available time or schedule. Okay, so you have these list of like valuable things, and you're like, I don't know how hard it is to do, but you have this list of valuable things, and then you estimate the difficulty and the time, and you say, well, this is how much time it takes. This is how much time I have. So can I do it? You have a yes, no decision. You can eliminate some skills, and you'll be narrowing your list further. Among the remaining skills, you can reorder their priority now that you have effort weighting on your list. The optimal skill need not be the easiest to pick up, but rather the one which provides the best risk-adjusted value that can be picked up within the available time. Aptitude and proclivity matter here as well. So the word that you're using for proclivity, when I hear that, for me, I'm allocating that step of decision into the leisure step. So proclivity to me sounds like I enjoy it. And if I don't enjoy it, that would be leisure discounting, is the phrase that I've used here, which is maybe not the best wording. I mean, I'm open to other wording. But there is a technical matter that I'm dealing with, regardless of the wording. There is utility, is what we call it in economics. It's just utility. I just don't have a preference for it. And so that stage, I want it to be at the end. I don't want you to rule out skills early on. And the reason for that is that sometimes you will say, well, that doesn't sound fun. You will have sort of in Kahneman's system 1 and system 2 of thinking, you will have a knee-jerk reaction, a system 1 reaction to picking up some skill. It just sounds like not fun to you. Where if you maintained it on your list, and if you look through the potential value to an employer, and if you look through the actual difficulty of picking it up, by the time basically you've engaged system 2 and you're thinking longer term, you're more open to it. You're more open to it. And so what you do here is you effectively grow the pool of candidate skills by not eliminating early. And so you only want to eliminate early if it's like it's literally a bad financial decision. If it kind of sounds like from these notes that you're advocating for low difficulty, I may be off base. And as a simplification, I think that's fair. As a simplification, I think that's fair. But there's a really important caveat right here. The optimal skill need not be the easiest to pick up, but rather the one which provides the best risk-adjusted value that can be picked up within the available time. So if I have 3 skills, skill 1 might be harder than 2, and 2 might be harder than 3. So skill 1 might be the most difficult. Now, a really simplistic approach would be to say they're ranked off of difficulty, and so I'll pick the easy one. But you want to do a deeper analysis than that. What you want to do is say, hey, I have a month or 2. Sure, this one is the easiest, but is it the best value that I can get out of a month or 2? Now, the answer is you might be able to do all 3 in a month or 2. Or maybe you say one's got to go. I can do any 2 of these. I can do any 2 of these. Maybe you can even do the harder 2. So anyway, it's to inform your overall decision. It's not a straight rule that the easiest thing is that thing which you ought to do. So I will say there is a bias in favor of doing things which are easier, but it's not a straight rule. That's a hypersimplification. Good questions and comments, chat. Thanks for being here. Hope you'll throw a like on the video. Grandpa says, I like doing the uncomfortable things early. It makes them easy. The more you do that, the more comfortable everything will be. But I love the value effort graph. These are interesting points. I do believe we should develop a competency with being uncomfortable. I think that is a long-term development. If you are in a short run situation, let's say you've been laid off, I don't think right now is the time to work on your willingness to be uncomfortable. Right now, do the thing that will get you a job. And then this is an interesting point, and I'll make note of it, and I'll include it in the blog. It's really a good point. Is that I do think we should have some sort of like budgeted allocation to. We should have some sort of budgeted allocation to long term. Basically, the question is like long term versus short term skill investment, which is a fantastic point you're making. It's actually such a good point that you're making. I'm tempted to call you a co-author on the blog. Like, this is a really critical point you're making. You want to make a short-term, long-term trade-off, basically. Let's see. I'll just add another note here. This is sort of a brain dump, so that works. So 1, 2, 3. I don't know. At some point down here, we're on to 5, I guess. 5. Consider your allocation to short-term and long-term skill development. Generally, you will want some mix of both. If you have been recently laid off, you will understandably bias toward short-term goals. If you are already comfortably employed, such that obtaining a better job is quite difficult in the short run, then it may make sense to favor longer-term skills. An example of a useful long-term skill would be to develop comfort with doing the uncomfortable. Another one is the capacity to be bored. Oh, TAPPMAX. TAPPMAX. GitHub. TAPPMAX. Thanks, Max. Hey, I am going to ask you to peer review this pull request, actually. I'd like to get your name on the contribution roster. Yeah, let's mention you as a co-author. Max Tap. Capacity to be bored is genius. I can't take credit for that. That is coming from the business guy. What is that guy's name? $1 million deals. This is not it. This is totally wrong. Oh, dude, I'm so tired. Super smart business people named Alex. Alex Hormozy. That's the guy. Alex Hormozy. And I don't know that it's original with him either, but he's the one that I got it from. Also, wall staring. GG Gamer, wall staring. Healthy Gamer GG. Both of these guys. I'll need to look around for the citations. But Healthy Gamer GG, has indicated the value of being able to become bored. And also Alex Hormozy. I don't know. I couldn't pull you the citation. Couldn't pull you the citation right now. Okay, let's look through this stuff. An example of a useful long-term skill would be to develop comfort with doing the uncomfortable. Let's see, 2 examples of useful long-term skills include basically develop a growth mindset, which includes comfort with the uncomfortable and framing failure as growth. And 2, developing the capacity to be bored and introduce periods without mental stimulation into your daily routine in order to boost productivity strategically when needed. ChatGPT taking all our jobs, dude. It's over. What up, Puff? I wish it was over. I wish it was over. Imagine if I could literally just do this all day and make the same money. It would be way easier. It would be way easier. Here's the thing, though. ChatGPT cannot resolve your dispute with your coworker. Woo! Run that back 3 times. Run that back 3 times and let me know. You're going to keep making money as long as you're the one who has to deal with the humans. Who gets to deal with the humans, eh? As long as you're the one who gets to deal with the humans. And has to deal with some humans. Who gets to deal with some humans and has to deal with other humans. That's HR, man, not IT. Well, I'm a programmer, so IT is a little bit different from programming. But I'll tell you, the people that I know who work in IT, if they have the skills, the technical skills, and added social skills on top, they're the ones doing the best. Programming or IT, like, man, I don't want to get off on a rabbit trail, but like, we've dealt with IT people who were not cool, and we've dealt with IT people who are cool, and we know who the cool ones are. Okay, the article on the topic, right? This is all doing fine. This is like such crummy, but that's the whole point, is that I can have like low cognitive effort and GPT is going to help. So consider your allocation. Great, that's fine. Start by defining your own goals. The optimal skill need not be the easiest to pick up, but rather the ones which provide the best risk-adjusted value that can be picked up within the available time. Okay. 4, we start generating the list of skills based on employer demand and willingness to pay. Do not leap for the highest, for the skill with the highest attached price. Often these are highly niched skills which will constitute a gamble because they are rarely hired for. Instead, look for the most common skills. This minimizes the most common skills among job posts. This minimizes risk of realizing value on whatever skills you choose. Create a list of top skills that are associated to your target job roles. Make a finite list. Make a finite list depending on your available learning time. Laterally encourages starting with a relatively small list of 5 to 10 skills. Once you have these common skills written down, do feel free to rank them by expected wage increases. As a second stage, now that you have confirmed they are all low risk investments. Okay, so now I'm going to basically submit this. Grandpa says you don't want people to learn COBOL. That is precisely the problem I'm trying to avoid. You hit the nail on the head. If you look at the highest value skills, COBOL is way up there. COBOL is way up there. Like, we joke about COBOL all the time, but like, seriously, it's a high value skill. The problem is it's a huge gamble. In addition to freezing your career progress, and it's another one of these picking the tool before the role problems where I pick COBOL because it's high value and I pigeonhole myself into legacy code bases without realizing it. That's worth a second emphasis. I think I did say this, but it's worth an additional emphasis. Create a list of top skills that are associated to your target job roles. Let's write this again. To reiterate and emphasize, pick the target roles first and the target skills as a second stage. If you pick the skill first, in contrast, you may pigeonhole or trap yourself into a job family or career path that you did not intend, which can lead to long-term dissatisfaction, burnout, and stalled wages and career growth. For example, learning COBOL can command a high wage increase, but it will strongly bias you into working in legacy code and make working in cutting edge projects more difficult. Honestly, no one likes to work in legacy code bases. It's miserable. Do you want to maintain or do new development? Exactly. But if you're writing all of this, couldn't you just write whatever it's going to say? I mean, I could technically just publish this, but like, who's going to read this? This is not formatted as a good article. Like, no, GPT is going to help us make it much nicer. It's going to help us make it much nicer. Our system, well, in theory, it would have until it just failed. Okay. That was so bad. Yo, OpenAI, what's going on lately, y'all? Is this related to Ilya? Did Ilya just fry the thing on his way out? Juanez, thank you for the follow. Oh, look, it added the plug for the coaching call without me even trying. That's epic. Tech driver, that happened to me earlier. Sign out. Good tip. I think we salvaged the project, but I appreciate the tip anyway. How many engineers do you need on a live stream to use ChatGPT, right? And then the answer is like log out and log back in. Somebody funnier than me can definitely make a joke out of that. Okay, so let's review this. Selecting your next skill to develop. Here's the date, author John. Whoa. I did not tell it the date. Somehow it knows what day it is. That's cool. Interesting. Okay. Choosing the next skill to develop is a critical decision that can shape your career trajectory. At Latterly, we treat this process as an optimal investment problem. The goal is to identify the skill that maxes your return on investment in terms of time, money, and effort, while also accounting for risk and leisure. I'm digging it so far. Dub in the chat or not. Here's a step-by-step guide to help you select the most beneficial skill for development. Step 1, define your goals. Before diving into skill selection, start by defining your personal and professional goals. A personalized plan tailored to your specific aspirations will always No, I can't use the word always, homie. We have a doctorate. We're not allowed to say always. we have a doctorate. We're not allowed to say always anymore. Generally will be the right word. That's a minor thing. Here, let me go ahead and copy this over. Go ahead and copy this over. Always will generally outperform a generic plan. And I don't like the term generic plan. I'll say a plan a personalized plan tailored to your specific aspirations will generally outperform a plan based on aggregate market research and data. I hate should and always. It's taken me a long time, but I've become comfortable with should. I've become comfortable with should as long as you make clear your criteria for advisement. And so here, right up at the top, we're doing that. We're going to identify that skill which maximizes your return on investment. Like here's our technical definition of what we are doing. From here on out, I'm allowed to say should. And what I mean by should is I mean this. I'm not giving you like a religious moral lesson, right? I'm giving you a technical optimization pattern. And I've grown comfortable with that. Baseless should is bad. Yes, I agree. If you tell me should, it really begs the question, doesn't it? As soon as you say should, my question is like, what do you mean should? Like, why are you saying that? So yes, if you tell me should without telling me why, it might annoy me. Really, it would just beg the question for me. I'm happy to dig in. I wouldn't really get annoyed. Here's when I would get annoyed. If I ask you what you mean, and then you tell me that I'm like splitting hairs by asking what you mean. That drives me up a wall. It just clearly indicates that you don't know how important the concept of should is. Anyway. Yeah. When people tell me that I'm like nitpicking or in the weeds, if it's not true, it really drives me up a wall. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes it's true, and it's like, yeah, like I was getting into the weeds. Thanks for calling me back out. I appreciate that. But if it's like, no, this is really critical that we get this right, and you're just brushing over it, it's like, dude, do you actually understand what we're doing here? It makes me feel like you don't get it. Okay, cool. I guess we'll continue to read in this view. Here I can open the preview. Tony V, thank you for the follow. Sess, thanks for the W. Let's get a few likes on the video. We got 857 likes on TikTok. Thank you so much. I'm confident we can get over 1,000. All right, so let's reread. Tony says, what are you learning on? We are writing a blog article using GPT-4o. And we've basically dumped our notes into GPT-4, and currently it has provided us a draft, which is well formatted. I love this format, right? I might turn some of these bullets into numbered item. I'm a big fan of numbering your lists, even an unordered list. I will still often number it to facilitate reference, so that if someone says, hey, I have a question about item number 4, it just makes reference easier. But what we're talking about, the topic of this is how do we select the optimal next skill that we should be developing? Okay, step 1, define your goals. A personalized plan tailored to your specific aspirations will, let's just say, tailored to you. Tailored to you. That's a little unnecessarily complex. I mean, it's not wrong. It's just like a little bit. I think my target audience might be like a slightly lower vocabulary. Okay, a personalized plan tailored to you will generally outperform a plan based on aggregate market research and data. Ask yourself, what are your short-term and long-term goals? Which roles or industries are you targeting? What are your interests and passions? Clearly outlining your goals will provide a solid foundation for the subsequent steps. I also here want to note, Latterly is particularly concerned with helping you land your first or next programming role. We have crunched the numbers and found that full stack development is an optimal entry point into the market. In short, there are some basic skills we generally recommend for most people. Let's say here is an ordered list of the skills we generally recommend for most people to do. And then after attaining this, an entry level developer role and not mastering, after attaining basic competency in the above skills, along with an entry level developer role, you may not have the role yet. That's the thing. You may want to specialize to differentiate yourself even at the entry level. After attaining basic competency in the above skills, you may go on to select other skills to differentiate yourself differentiate yourself or advance toward the senior level. Latterly also has a recommended list of possible specializations to help you make this decision more easily. Always feel free to append your own, to append additional options of interest to you to this list. It is simply meant to make growing a candidate skill list, growing a skill, like a list of candidate skills options. It is simply meant to facilitate growing a list of candidate skill options. So here's going to be search skills, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript. Okay. Here's an ordered list of the skills we generally recommend for most people. Oh, also SQL. Where's SQL going to fit in there? I guess even before TypeScript. After attaining basic competency, not mastery in the above skills, you may go on to select other skills to differentiate yourself or advance toward the senior level. Let me make a section about that conclusion. So here I will say specializations. Common specializations. Specializations. Did I spell that word correctly? Samu, thanks for the follow. Okay, after attaining basic competency, not mastering the above skills, you may go on to select other skills to differentiate yourself or advance toward the senior level. Laterally has a list of common specializations in common specializations. I'll say read the section called common specializations. For a prepared list of engineering or like specializations in for software engineers. Always feel free to append additional options of interest to this list. It is simply meant to be a helpful starting point. I would say persistence, question mark. Some places only use DocDB. Yeah, I don't care. I appreciate what you're saying, but I like here. No one's really getting a job off DocDB. That's the thing. 13 jobs. It's just not even worth mentioning. The main primitive is SQL. The main primitive is SQL. You can talk about NoSQL DBs. The problem is, first of all, NoSQL DBs as a whole are a minority of the market. But the other thing is NoSQL DBs are highly internally heterogeneous, so that a time series database is very different than a graph database, right? So it's not as though a single specialization is like, I'm a specialist NoSQL database person. That's not really a specialty. The closest thing would be something like, I know MongoDB. That would be the closest thing to a popular NoSQL skill. Um, Maybe Mongo has enough to be worth mentioning. It's like really small. Even Mongo is like really small. Um, like to cut to the chase, I just flat out don't recommend it. If you're asking me, hey John, what are some of the top specializations that I should investigate as a junior engineer interested in becoming a senior developer as quickly as possible? What I'm not going to tell you is you should definitely upskill on NoSQL databases. Like I'm not going to tell you that. Testing, accessibility, SEO. Um, these are the sorts of things that I'll be going for. Even if you're interested in data engineering, like if you want, like if you're like, man, I'm actually passionate about databases. Who says that, by the way? But even if you say that, you're like, I read DDIA for fun, you know. Um, there's still so many other things that you should do before you deep dive into all of the miscellanea of NoSQL databases. There is a time and place for it, but I really feel that that's like the staff plus level. Honestly, if you want someone who's like so into data architecture, it's really like an architectural level consideration. If you want to have someone who's so into data architecture that you can just have like they don't need to prepare notes, you can just have a conversation and they know off the top of their head the cost differential between a time series DB or like using Redis or Mongo or Rabbit. This is like at least a staff level conversation, if not a principal level conversation. Grandpa says, okay, what about the pub sub or REST getting the jobs done? Yeah, this is basically like you're asking me like a system design question. So when does system design become relevant? As an interview technique, it's going to be very useful, even at the intermediate level, definitely at the senior level. You need to know these things for purpose of passing system design. Does it make your resume stand out though? Like, no. Like putting REST on your resume is like saying that you speak English. It's like everyone is expected to know REST at the senior level. It doesn't. There's no like. I mean, maybe it's going to show up in the search results, but it's going to show up like the word English does. Wow, this Berkshire Gray has it all. They say MongoDB and REST. I got a job for you, and it pays 150K a year. um, I had interview questions where they asked, "What is the HTTP verb for deleting?" Yeah, oh yeah, like the word delete. That's epic, dude. Um, yes, it is like let me take the jokes out of it. For the purpose of a system design interview, it's actually like pretty important to know. That's very different than differentiating yourself to employers and like increasing your accessible job count. When I tell people that I expect you to know JavaScript and TypeScript at a basic level of competency, I already expect you to know the REST verbs at that time. It's not even a specialization. I consider like being able to know like put post like the REST verbs is a table stakes competency. Which site do you use to check this job rate? This is indeed.com. This is not like the Holy Gospel. This is one website. It's maybe the most popular job board on the internet besides LinkedIn itself. So you can also just as easily go to LinkedIn jobs. And in fact, I regularly do both. But you will almost always see like similar patterns. So here we're looking for REST. And it turned it into Reston, Virginia. Okay, this is really stupid. Oh, skill goes over here. Sorry, the stupid one is me. No matching jobs found for rest. Thanks, I hate it. I'm a software engineering manager at a small place where managers and the CTO codes daily. That's kind of dope. Like, I'm kind of here for it. Okay, that's going to be a rabbit trail so fast, but I'll just say if I were a CTO, I would love coding. Samu says, are you always coding in Python? How about coding in JavaScript as well? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the page in front of us is written in JavaScript. I absolutely am not always coding in Python. I've been called on TikTok once upon a time. I was called the CEO of Learn React, not Python. So I consider Python to be like a third tier skill, which is not to say a low value skill. I think it's probably like the third most important skill. It's a huge value add. It's just not the first thing that you should be learning. If you like, okay, oh gosh, we're gonna get back into this debate once again, huh? Okay, so let's say that you want to learn Python. You don't know JavaScript, you don't know anything. You just want to learn Python. Where do you even start? Well, the first thing you do is you visit a website, which means you visit an entity guaranteed to be using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So you basically prove the idea that Python is extraneous by trying to learn Python. Okay, now you found the Python docs. What are they going to tell you? They're going to tell you to install Python. It's much easier to use an online playground, which again, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. All of this stuff is right there in the browser. So you already have a browser installed. You already go to websites. You already visit websites. You know what a website looks like. You know what it does. You have the mental model. You have the domain to prepare a website. A blog, you already know what a blog is, right? You knew what a blog is when you were in, what, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade? You knew what a website was. You knew what a blog is. Do you know what the hell a Python microservice is? It's like so much of a larger cognitive barrier. Let's say that you want to learn Python. You're again learning a tool before you target a role. This is an anti-pattern. Do you want to be a data analyst? Do you want to be a data scientist? If you want to be a data scientist, you should absolutely know Python, but you're going to have to do something else first, which is get a degree in a relevant field. Because as much as I'm a fan of being a self-taught programmer, that is not the culture in data science industry. It's like a distinct industry, and academia is still table stakes. So there's a lot of pitfalls that you will fall into if you try to put Python first. Do you know how to use the terminal? Do you know how to use the command line? Good luck using Python if you don't know how to use the command line. But if you go full stack first, every step of the way, you already have part of the mental model built without even trying. You can start poking around in a website on day one because you already know what a website is. You already have Chrome installed. You can just start poking away at it. By the time you become a full stack developer, at that time, you will know what a terminal is. And so adding on Python as an additional step is super smart at that time. The feedback loop of full stack is very minimal. The feedback loop is incredibly critical. And it's the reason that even when you're learning full stack, you should start on the front end and work towards the back end. Python is a back end language. The harder part of full stack is the back end. By jumping to Python, you're basically like jumping into hard mode. You're like diving into the deep end. You're also generally skipping the graphical element. Many people are graphic learners. Front end work really, really emphasizes a feedback loop, but more than a feedback loop, a graphical feedback loop. So you get a double reinforcement in your learning journey. Now, you can do some really great data visualization with Python. You can. And frankly, if you were going to jump straight into Python, I would encourage you to go very quickly to data visualization or even Python game development so that you can have a graphic activation. But if you're basically starting to learn to code through data visualization, are you really targeting a software engineering role, or are you targeting a data analyst role? Especially put yourself on the other side. Let's assume that you have learned successfully one skill and one skill only. You don't know HTML, you don't know CSS, you don't know JavaScript, but you do know data visualization. And now you try to go on the job market. You're going to be looking for data analyst roles. You're not going to be looking for a software engineering role. People that thrive on the back end is nuts to me. I'm such a visual learner. People are different, though. People are different by a measurable degree, and the degree is not that much. Measurably, for most people, it is difficult to start with a back-end language. It's difficult to start with a back-end language. I consider back-end development to be a specialization, like something to be done later in the job search. Now, it's also true that the standard four-year curriculum will often teach you Java or Python. So they teach you these back-end languages. And so if you graduated with a degree and it's like you know this already, great, you're on the pipeline to big tech. Makes total sense. Yeah, now we're just like fully on the rabbit trail. And there are technical reasons that big tech, tier one companies disproportionately hire back-end developers. And there are reasons to do with economies of scope and scale and specialization. So it is a specialization. It's just one that's so valuable and formalized that it's been internalized into the traditional computer science degree. The traditional computer science pipeline has pros and cons. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you can get an MIT degree, knock it out. It's a great investment. And that is very distinct than the advice that Latterly gives, for good reason. Latterly's target audience is not MIT grads. Latterly's target audience is middle market. And in middle market, tier 2 and tier 3, where the plurality of jobs are, back-end development as a specialty is disproportionately underrepresented, not overrepresented. So tier 1, because of the economics of scope and scale in the industry, they concentrate in tier 1, back-end developers. Tier 2 and tier 3, front-end and full stack, you're going to get a whole lot more jobs there. Okay, well, that was a fun rant. Pretty off topic, but fun rant anyway. Samu says, oh, thank you for the lightning bolts, tech driver. Samu says, how important is to deeply learn JavaScript fundamentally in this AI environment? I feel like you're loading the question. And so I'm going to reframe your question in two ways to deload it. The first way is I'll say, if you want to be an AI engineer, JavaScript is not terribly important. So when you say AI environment, are you actually trying to seek an AI engineering role? If so, JavaScript is not terribly important for you. Now, if you mean in this environment where we use AI-based tools, then you are making a very dangerous presumption, because at interview time, you will very often not have access to those AI-based tools in today's market. In the future, perhaps, but currently, it's a tool you get to use on the job. It's not a tool you get to use on the interview. And so you would need to understand whatever language of preference of sufficient level of learning so that you can pass an interview. And assuming the AI environment there is a very dangerous assumption. Grandpa says, I'm constantly annoyed by CS majors that get good jobs and don't know JavaScript. Yeah, I mean, there's tons of them. There's tons of them. I don't know if I'm annoyed by it. Like, I don't blame them. Like, dude, I mean, if my dad or whatever got me, like if I got into a great school and my parents paid for it, or maybe my parents didn't pay for it, whatever. Maybe I got a scholarship, whatever I did. I don't think that's negative. Like, good for them. I would do it too if I had that ability. Where does the annoyance comes in? Maybe the annoyance comes from a feeling of unfairness where some people are doing the lion's share of the work and they are receiving a lower wage. So it's like, it's not fair. Like, I'm doing more work and I'm paid less. Um, Here's a reassuring thing that I can say is that that typically does not survive into the long run. The pattern that I've just described does happen, and it's typically a short run phenomena. That if you truly have someone who graduated from a computer science program, they may be paid more than you, but if they're not working just as hard as you or harder, if they're not just as productive as you or more productive, um, their wage growth will be relatively slow over the course of years. So they may make more than you now, they may make more than you in 6 months, but over the course of years, their wage growth will stagnate, and then it becomes up to you. Then it becomes up to you. Um, you can be bitter, and if that bitterness drives you into unproductive, destructive behavior, like just being mad all the time or drinking or I don't know, whatever you do that's not productive, um, then you will still be paid on the marginal wage of you will still be paid on the wage of your marginal productivity. And so if both of you stagnate, they just keep making more than you because you've both stagnated. But if they stagnate and you don't, if you continue to work hard, you can easily exceed them in the course of a few years. I'll also say that as a market, it would be great if we could improve this employer matching rate so that the short run becomes even shorter, and that candidates of non-traditional backgrounds are placed into high productivity environments even quicker. And to solve that problem, I'm very passionate about solving that problem, by the way. That's something Latterly is involved in. We need to actually implement tools that employers use. We need to implement the tools and persuade employers to use them. It's a two-part problem. It's a bit of a technical problem, a bit of a sales problem, two-part problem. We need to build tools that allow the detection of high potential employees and then convince employers that they work and to use them. This has been like a winding rabbit trail because now I'll come back and say that this is a problem that AI can help with. To really come full circle on the AI ML problem, AI ML is really well equipped to be able to predict that a non-traditional applicant could quickly exceed in productivity relative to a traditional applicant. Okay, this is like so off topic, but it's super interesting. So anyway, aptitude is really, really hard to figure out. The thing is, I disagree. I mean, call me controversial. I think it is easy to figure out when you have the right tools and process in place, and that the issues mainly owe their facts to the fact that employers typically don't have the right tools and processes in place, not to the fact that aptitude itself is actually that difficult to capture. I think you can relatively easily capture reliable signals of productivity in software engineering. You can do this. You can measure things that will predict your productivity. But in the tech industry, for some reason, there is a massive opposition to actually doing it, from top to bottom, from CTO to frontline engineer. No one wants to actually measure velocity of work, quality of work. I think there's a real problem of engineering fear. That's what I think. I mean, now we're just into the world of speculation. But I think there's a problem of engineering fear where if you're a CTO and if you roll out a process, hey, here's how we're going to start measuring productivity. We're going to get away with the old feedback approach where you just pick 3 buddies and they say how great you are. We're going to get away with that. And we're going to start actually measuring how much do you code, how many bugs are you shipping, what is the actual revenue impact of your work. We're going to run type checkers. We're going to run unit tests. We're going to look at coverage. We're going to look at all these things. We're going to look at Jira. We're going to look at how you estimated and then how you delivered. And then engineers freak out because they're like, dude, my estimates are wrong all the time. And they just resist like naturally. Like, I don't want you to measure that because I'm wrong all the time. I think that's like the real problem. Yeah, I think that's the real problem. And I think it goes engineer up to CTO. I don't think this is like just a problem with the engineers. CTOs want to resist it because CTOs don't want to be on the hook for epic delivery. CTOs are also former engineers very often, so it gets into the water. And they also don't want to scare off their talent by being like, there's like a first mover problem where if your company is the first one to implement low level stringent quality like productivity control, you might scare off your talent. So there's like a flight to the places where that doesn't occur. Anyway, we're a Kanban shop. We just deliver small streams of value and have no deadlines ever. That's awesome. There's good things to it. There's good things to it. I'm going to sleep well after this. I'm so tired right now. Our CTO is amazing. All right, I get it, Grandpa. Fine. I'll apply. Send me the link. Fine. You've persuaded me. Okay. After attaining basic competency, you know what? Is your CTO on the stream right now? Is that why you're doing this? Your CTO is just actually watching the stream. He's like saying everything good about the company. Okay, after attaining basic competency, not mastery, Hey, here's a question. Laterally is particularly concerned with, here's an ordered list of skills we generally recommend. This section, should I move it into generate a list of valued skills? I think so. After attaining basic competency, not mastering the above skills, you may go on to select other skills to differentiate yourself or advance toward the senior level. Read the section called Common Specializations for a prepared list of specializations for software engineers. Always feel free to append additional options of interest to this list. It's simply meant to be a helpful starting point. Cool. The more general process is to match employer demand with your own interests. Is common specializations a link in the same document? Yes, it's going to be this heading down here. Can we do the anchor tag and anchor on the markdown? Let's try. We can try it. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if it's going to work though. Because of my markdown processor. I don't know that it's equipped to deal with embedded HTML fragments. So like here, it's going to work on this preview, right? Okay, it works on the preview. Common specializations. Oh, I said career. Oops, common. So here it worked on the preview, right? But let's go to localhost. Watch, it just totally works, and I'm just like being neurotic. Common specializations. Yeah, see, it doesn't skip me down. It doesn't skip me down because this is not a proper markdown file. This is an HTML file. Maybe I can add the counterpart link. See, how do I add the counterpart link over here? It needs to have an ID, doesn't it? And then I really hate the SEO of these things, anchor tags. Oh, I refreshed the page. Bloody Pouch, did you accept? No, sir, not at all. It's the first offer I got. You're just going to accept the first offer? Specializations. I may accept if nothing else pans out. It's a really solid offer. But I have a lot of other things that I need to finish up first. Specializations. I mean, did you accept Jesus Christ? Oh, wow. I mean, yeah. That one's older news, but yeah. Okay, so this worked. Just use the thing. I normally don't use anchor tags in Markdown, just use the thing. Okay. But I need to fix the target heading. Otherwise it'll be impotent. All right, let's try it. I don't know. I'm going to trust what you're saying. I don't think it's going to work though. Do I put this in quotes? I don't remember if I'm supposed to put that in quotes. I think not. No quotes. Okay, right. Yeah. Yeah, see, it doesn't work because the target heading has no ID. What? What? You don't see the problem? The problem is that the target heading has no ID. Because this is not a real Markdown document. This is an HTML file. What we could do is we could adapt the plugin to generate IDs on all the headings. I mean, we've gone on so many rabbit trails. Why not? Oh, geez. Why not? Let's do this too. I guess it should theoretically be easy. Let me open a new, fresh context. Adapt this TSX file responsible for generating HTML files from Markdown. Adapt it in such a way. That's a weird English grammatical pattern. Adapt it so that is much more computationally friendly. Adapt it so that heading tags get an anchor, like an ID that enables internal page anchors, anchor navigation. Did I phrase this really terribly? Please ask any clarifying questions as needed before making the code change. Lauren, why are you adapting Markdown to HTML? Why not use a WYSIWYG? What would I be doing with the WYSIWYG? So then I would need to save it to the database. Is that right? So the benefit here would be that I can avoid a database and I can instead have my Markdown file in version control. Ooh, rehype auto head links. You don't want a database? I mean, I have a database, but I would currently prefer to keep the blog outside of that database. So Latterly is not meant to be like a blog. A blog is like a really heavy-handed solution, right? It involves its own data model, multiple tables. So we can do that, but the current approach is much lighter weight. It's just Markdown files. But then you have to update version control to add a new blog post. I would say I get to. Do you need a table of contents for it to work? Nope, no, we don't. You get to deploy every time. Yep. Yeah. So one of the problems with putting it into a database is that it would close the source unless I make a database and then also add it to a seed file. So Laterally is open source. So by having it in Markdown and version control, anyone who clones the repo gets all the articles. Why would somebody want your articles? Yeah, solid question. Solid question. I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't. Okay, I think I'm not seeing why we get both of these. We just use it. We just use it. Okay. I guess that's fine. Highly recommend looking into a WYSIWYG like Froala. Hook it up to a simple Postgres model. Your component will be 5 lines. Submit a pull request if it's 5 lines. Call me skeptical. Call me skeptical. How do you do? I'm not even going to ask. The question is like, how do you do internal anchor links, like what we're doing right now? That doesn't come for free in a WYSIWYG. That's a matter of the compiled content. So yeah, submit the pull request. I'd love to look at it. Maybe if it's better, we'll merge it. It's really simple. If it's better, we'll merge it. You can also see right here that we have this like call to action blog that gets replaced. That's not going to be in the WYSIWYG. This is like 3 lines by itself. You can add an href to a local link like home. No, an internal anchor is not. That's so /home. First of all, you shouldn't have /home. It's just slash. Slash is your homepage. But an anchor has a hashtag in it. It has a £. So it's a local anchor, like internal page navigation. You're not reloading the page. You know what I mean, bro. Okay, I'm trying to make sure you know what I mean. You know what I mean, bro. Nice. Yeah, if that works too, then maybe it's great. Maybe we should totally use it. Send a pull request. So let's see. Looks like the ID is generated there. Common specializations. Okay. Talk about scope creep, eh? Oh, now they all have these. Now they all have these like underlines that I really hate. Oh man, it makes sense, doesn't it? All right, chat, y'all can decide. Dub if you want to keep it, L if we remove these. Dub if we keep it, L if we remove these. Grandpa says Octothorpe. I don't know what that is. Is that another WYSIWYG? Oh, wow. Another term for the £. That's wild. I've never heard that. KB, welcome in. What are you configuring? These headings. You see how I can like jump to them now? Let's see if I open this in a new tab, will it automatically scroll me down? It does. It's kind of nice. Have you used a CMS before? Yeah, yeah. So used WordPress, I mean, going back to like 2010. I've been blogging for over 10 years. So again, I said this already, but I'm just going to repeat it. The architecture of Latterly is intended to be lighter weight and not to include the standard schema around a blog or a CMS. So I'm trying to avoid all of that schema. Wagtail is rather good for this. Cool. Cool. Yeah, I would be reaching for payload CMS if I needed one, but I don't need one. Like a CMS does like way more stuff than what we need here. We just need to turn Markdown. And by the way, it doesn't even solve the main feature, which is the ability to use Markdown. Like Markdown itself is a really lightweight, simple syntax, and that's like half the benefit here. Nonea says, I've been learning Python. Just curious, what's your background? Oh, there's a whole story. So hi, my name's John. I'm a senior software engineer with a little over 10 years of experience. I most recently worked at a company called Upstart, where I predominantly coded backend in Python. Prior to that, have a long and sordid history as a full stack developer. I was originally a political consultant, and then I taught myself to code. I do not have a CS degree. I have a PhD in economics. So I guess that's the short of it. I'm also the lead maintainer of Latterly.io, the website in front of us that we're currently developing. So I'm an open source developer. I have a social following of tens of thousands where I help people learn to code and accelerate their tech career. Lorem says Django. Yep, yeah, we used Django. It wasn't only Django though. We had Fast API, Django, and Flask, the whole trinity. We had the whole trinity in the house. How does Python handle routing on the API side? It doesn't. It doesn't. Python doesn't handle routing. The trinity I just mentioned would. Okay. Wow, so many rabbit trails. So let's actually get this thing done, eh? Did we decide if we like these links or not? I guess I'll keep them. I'm very much torn. And I haven't really seen the audience confirm or deny if they hate it. So I guess that means we're indifferent. So if we're indifferent to the look and feel, but we gain a feature advantage, why not keep it, eh? Does that work for a quick evaluation? Okay. So let's go back to the generally markdown headings in something like GitHub don't have underlines. I'd say remove. Okay. Yeah, I agree. So the tricky thing is that headings shouldn't have underlines, but links should. And the tricky thing is that in this case, it's both. Grandpa says, I don't like the full width though. Oh man, I'm with you. This is just so much out of scope stuff we're doing, y'all. But I agree, like I think it looks good on a cell phone. So it's really just a mobile first matter. And then I didn't customize it for desktop. But yeah, you could have gutters. But then it's like, what's the size of the gutters? Whatever. Again, submit a pull request. Hey, great first issue. Great first issue. You can introduce a either a fixed width that floats metal or a fixed margin. Oh, we got a link over here. Line length readability. I'm glad you sent this because whatever margin you pick, my immediate question is going to be, why is this a good idea and not like an arbitrary choice? This is awesome. Yanni says out of scope. Yanni, I'm with you. Lorem, are you using Tailwind? I love its mobile first approach. Yes, absolutely using Tailwind. Big fan. Michael, leak code doesn't impress me. I like to see projects. Cool. Cool, cool. Okay, so 50 to 75 characters per line. Is that what we're seeing? How many characters right here? Character count. Ooh, get roasted, eh? So 50 to 75 would be roughly 50% of this, which would mean that we want, and isn't 50% beautiful? 50% is just like a shelling point, so it feels high art. It feels high art to me. I don't know. What do y'all think? So let's try to do 50% gutters here and see how atrocious it ends up. We have main. We'll do the whole main tag. Why not? Yeah, but gotta manage media queries. I got Tailwind. It's super easy. We're only doing this on desktop. Come on, that's kind of sexy, y'all. It's a little, it's new, it's different, and it's a little bit sexy, right? What do you think? Lorem says media queries are so 2019. That's hilarious, dude. Wow. That is definitely a programmer burn. Media queries are so 2019. I'm getting deliriously tired. Okay. Shout out to the research. I love to see it. Yeah, I'm very happy with this. We'll come back. We'll come back to the underlines, which feel kind of weird to me. It feels weird because they're headings and they don't look like headings. They look like links. But the thing is, they're also links. So this is like an information design question. When an element is both a link and also a heading, what affordance should you present? And the answer is like you want to present both. So how do you do that? I guess you make it look like a big link, I guess. I don't know. Oh, a link icon next to it. Link on icon next to it. Yeah, I can roll with. Only on hover. No, I can't roll with only on hover. It needs to be it needs to indicate that it's a link. Like on mobile when we don't really have a hover. And certain like disabled users. I want them to know without needing to hover. What if I'm using tab? If I'm using tab, is this a hover? It's not, right? It's selected is what it's called, I think. True, but if they're using a screen reader, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I like the link icon idea. I don't know. I guess I'm open to it. My bias would be just put the link icon there all the time, but I guess I'm open to show the link when you hover. But then when I hover, what my heading would be shifting to the right. I don't know if I like the shifting aspect of it. You know what I mean? Put the icon on the right. Ooh. It's interesting. It's like I don't know that there's anything wrong with that. Maybe that's just fine. People have, okay, let me look at Medium. Can I see a Medium article? I feel like I've seen this before. Where there's a heading, that one doesn't have any headings. No? Let's see. I've seen the link. Like, where have we seen the link, y'all? Okay, here on GitHub. See, they floated out on the left. I'm not aware of any reason not to float it out on the right, except for I just haven't ever seen anyone do that. Stack Overflow does the link on the right. Okay, let's check it out. Hey, if Stack Overflow does it, we can do it, eh? Probably somewhere else. Let's see. This one is not floating a link icon at all. I'm not seeing it. Where is this thing you're talking about? Benio, what's going on? Okay, this is becoming a time suck. I think it's interesting. If we get a real designer in the house, let me know if you have an opinion. Currently, I am cool with let's hide these and show the underline on hover. I'm cool with that. Samu, thanks for the rose. So we're going to roll this back to purple. Let me look at production. So I'm looking at the production blog. And this is sort of the bold style here. So I think we retain this. And we can just drop a... oh, thank you so much for the rose, everyone. Samu and Lorem both. Thank you so much. So is it okay if I do an underline on hover instead of a lock icon on hover? It'll look like this when you're not hovering. And so I think that's still, it's like kind of like a meet in the middle approach, if that's cool. What's the font weight here? The font weight is 700. Okay, production font weight is 700. This looks thinner to me. Let's check it out. Computed font weight is 500. Okay, so here, yeah, I want that to be the hover style, and then I think we're good. Benio says, just finished coding for tonight. Figured I'd swing by and see what we're working on. Well, we were writing a blog. We have a draft of it. I don't know that it's quite finalized. But we also made like some style improvements to the blog. I mean, shout out to the whole team here. Lorem helped. A bunch of people helped. Grandpa on Twitch helped. Sorry if I'm forgetting anyone else that contributed. And pull up to the GitHub and get your name on the pull request if you want to. But I think we're finally starting to settle. This one is underweight now, I think. Oh, maybe it, okay, it already was like that. Let me see if I should add some weight here. Font weight 700. Let me know, chat, about the weight. So this is 700, this is 700. Do we want to align on 700? Or do we want to align on 500? Font. This is a 400, okay? And this is a 500. Oh, everyone is saying 700 across channels. Okay. Hey, we love a strong signal. Okay, so this would be 500, but we'll do the 700. And so here I have an H1, and here I have an anchor immediately following a heading, an anchor immediately following an H2. So where's my blog style? I need to find my blog style, blog module CSS. And so the style here would be an anchor that's immediately following an H1 or H2. I can't write it like that. Are we just going to do this for H1 and H2? Can you use Tailwind for this? Probably. Okay, let's see. So where is my heading over here? Rehype auto link headings. So I haven't used this thing before, but let's try. Let me not assume the solution. Let's say, let's update the code so that what about H3 and H4? Where's an example of an H3? What is this guy? Here's an H3. I guess that also looks fine. I'm not really bothered by it. Grandpa says heading out. See you, Grandpa. Yeah, I'm not really bothered by if we apply this to just like all headings. I mean, what do you think? It's fine on the H3 as well. Let's update the code so that headings have a font weight of 700 on these prose pages. Ideally use Tailwind style. The font weight should also be applied onto anchors. The font weight should also be applied onto anchors that are direct children of headings. Scuba Guyo, may I ask why a web dev was short term? That takes anything to progress. I don't fully understand the question. Could you try rephrasing the question? Oh, look at this. We got we got the Tailwind class right there. That's nice. That's nice. Why was web dev short term? So I don't think you actually rephrased the question. You just said the same thing again, right? I don't know what you mean by was web dev short term. Did I state that web dev is short term somewhere? On the PDF, it had HTML, CSS, JS as short term goals. I feel those could be long term. They can be. So the fact that a goal is a short-term goal does not exclude it from also being a long-term goal. Does that make sense? I can specify that further somewhere. So Laterally recommends that you should learn web development in the short term. That doesn't mean that you like stop learning it in the long term. It just means that like before you even consider other things, you should have these baselines in. Definitely let me know if I should rephrase what I wrote. I'm sure there's room to improve it. All right, so the code is happy. How does it look? Sorry I joined late. It was the first thing I saw. Yeah, no problem at all. No problem at all. Thank you for explaining. Very welcome. Okay, now we have the font bold here. That's great. Now we got the font bold on all of them. 3 days ago. Thank you for the follow. Companies have you wear many hats. Those are a piece to the larger puzzle. You phrased it fine. Okay, thanks very much. Shiski says you need to know a lot to get a job. That's facts. That's facts. Okay, let's commit where we're at and we'll make a different commit for the other thing. So here, where are we at right now? We have the package lock, and we have cast any cast any, bro. Oh, that is cringe. That is cringe. I don't want to cast any. Oh, a custom rehype plugin. Sure, why not? To get a job now, what would you say that you have to know to be a solid candidate? Check out laterally.io, read the checklist, it's all there. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript. Here the tree is still typed as any. Dude, GPT, you're failing me. Yeah, it's not the skills that you need today are not different than the skills that you needed last year. It's just harder to get the job. Oh, look, we have a tree walker. We have our first tree walker in the code base. Yay. Not sure I should be celebrating that, but whatever. Add font bold to headings. Cool. It's well named. That's nice. And it's well typed, and I don't need to put an any. And it looks good to me. Okay, so here we have feature. The feature is bold link headings. We have bold link headings. Okay, now I want these to be underlined on hover, not by default. Whenever there is an anchor on this prose page, let it be underlined on hover, in contrast to the current situation where it is always underlined. So they're just advocating to do some CSS here. And they're mixing. Oh no, this is not the way. That's a CSS style module. Don't rename that. It's a load-bearing file name. Oof. Oof. I'm not going to be modifying the Tailwind config. If it can do it with vanilla Tailwind, I'll do that. If it wants me to modify the config, I'm just going to add a home module style. Okay, so it's another add font bold headings and anchor hover. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. Ayo, did we get it? I think we got it, team. I think we got it. And I like it. I like it. It feels a little more alive now, doesn't it? And I think that the non-sighted user will still have screen reader. I'm trying to think if there's any accessibility loss here. I don't know. I think we're good. Okay, so we have this. Now I also want to add the main style here. Main styles.main. Okay, so let's go over to styles.main. There shouldn't be anything here, right? Main, there's not. So here, let's change this. What is it, W50? Use code forces. Yo, he's back, yo. What is the Tailwind style to use 50% width? Oh, it's W half. Okay. What mouse do you use? I'm currently using the Zebec mouse. You are extensively using ChatGPT. Beginners are discouraged to learn coding. What do you think? I think ChatGPT is a fantastic tool that will help you learn to code. So I would encourage you to use ChatGPT. Now, don't take ChatGPT at face value. You need to be able to audit its product. So you need to actually understand and read what it says. My company doesn't allow it. Great. I mean, I'm not encouraging you to use it if your company doesn't allow it, that's for sure. But also, you can be an advocate to enable it at your company. And if you do that, you can be credited with a significant productivity boost at your company. What do you think is the best AI for coding? I'm partial to GPT-4, but I do believe there will be better ones just for coding. I'm partial to it because it has a variety of utilities, including but not limited to coding, OCR, and more. I can just give a picture to GPT and then ask it code questions about that picture, which is wild. How is Copilot different than ChatGPT? It's like super different. So literally what I just said about OCR, Copilot cannot do that. Is this M Auto? We got it. Okay, and this will be feet evidence-based optimal line width. What did that guy's chart said? It was like 50 to 70 characters is best or something? Are you using React? Yes, we are. TSX is React with TypeScript. Great. Okay, so all of the blog improvements out of the way. Let's actually go through all of the sort of like feature improvements. Let's go through the content now. Before diving into skill selection, start by defining your personal and professional goals. Great. The general process is to match employer demand with your own interests. Begin by identifying a list of skills that are in high demand among employers. Focus on skills that are commonly required for your target job roles, as these minimize the risk of not realizing value from your efforts. Avoid selecting skills based solely on their high attached wages, as these may be niche and less frequently hired for. Great. ChatGPT is just a fast stack overflow. Yes, but don't use the word just, because that's a superpower. Fast stack overflow is like awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Laterally recommends starting with a relatively small list of 5 to 10 skills. And ultimately selecting, ultimately single tasking. Okay, once you have your list of potential skills, estimate the effort and time required to learn each one. This stage involves assessing your available time and how it fits into your current schedule. The optimal skill is not necessarily the easiest to pick up, but the one that offers the best risk-adjusted value within the time you have. Rebalance or eliminate skills from your list that require excessive time investment. Consider a financial expenditure to pay for a course, coach, or other ways to accelerate learning or make learning less difficult. Consider a financial expenditure. Great. I think that's good. Tool. Great. Okay, so now you have like your list of skills that you want to learn, and the ones that are not going to fit in the timeline ruled out. You've considered cost, you've considered risk, you've considered, yeah, basically you've considered everything at this point. Great, 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 great. Now that you have a refined list of skills, rank them by employer demand and potential wage increase. Start by looking at job postings for your target roles to identify the most common skills. Is this redundant? This feels redundant. High demand and focus on skills that are commonly required for your target job roles. Yeah. Now that you have a refined list of skills, like why not just rank them that way in the first place? So you have these 5 to 10. Begin by identifying a list of skills that are in high demand. Focus on skills that are commonly required to minimize. Okay. You can go ahead and rank them at this time. You don't need to rank them down here. So really, I can completely eliminate that step. Okay. Starting with a small list of 5 to 10. Once you have your list of potential skills, estimate the effort and time required to learn each one. This stage involves assessing your available time and how it fits into your current schedule. Eliminate skills from your list that require an excessive time investment. Among remaining skills, okay, if you will pay to obtain a skill, deduct that amount from the estimated value gained. The trick is that it's going to be annualized. So you gain this skill. Let's say it benefits you for it could benefit you for many years. So the conservative thing to do is to truncate that by multiplying it by a smaller number of like 3 to 5 years. Once you have a list of potential skills, estimate the effort and time required to learn each one. A skill can benefit you for many years. A conservative approach to the total value of the skill is to multiply the annual, or like the expected salary benefit, by 5. A conservative approach to the total to the lifetime value. A conservative approach to the lifetime value of the skill is to multiply the expected salary benefit by 5. With this number, you can then deduct any cost to obtain the skill, such as course fees. Finally, you can now sort your skills by benefit per time allocated. Where the benefit is the net total lifetime value. More value for less effort is a preferred, is generally preferred. More value for less effort is generally preferred. Cool. After you've ranked your list, after you've sorted your skills based on more value for less effort, is higher, like, here I'll just say return, potential return. After you've sorted your skills based on demand and expected return, now factor in your personal preferences and leisure. If one skill has, if a skill seems more or less enjoyable to study, try to put a dollar amount on that enjoyment and rerun your return calculation. Groupith says hello. Hello, Groupith. How are you? Balance your skill development between short-term and long-term goals. For instance, if you've recently been laid off, prioritize skills that can quickly lead to re-employment. If you're comfortably employed, consider developing long-term skills that will pay off in the future. Short-term skills: time management, communication, social networking, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Great. Long-term skills: growth mindset, capacity for boredom. Integrate periods of mental rest to boost productivity when needed. Once you have a portfolio of the big 4 projects on GitHub, begin your jobs. Okay, so let's link this. No, actually, I can drop this whole section. Can drop that whole section. Cool. Common specializations. I wonder if I already talked about this in another article. What do you think about personalized GPTs and ChatGPT for programming? Are they better? So custom GPTs, I have not seen research to indicate that they produce better code. They might, but I just haven't seen that research. I will say they are absolutely useful for a variety of tasks. And Latterly also has a custom GPT. But the Latterly custom GPT, I'm not sure it will produce better code, but it is better at certain tasks. In particular, it acts as a 24/7 accessible coach to you that can echo the Latterly standard advice with relative accuracy. Much better accuracy than the vanilla GPT-4, because the vanilla GPT-4 just lacks the training focus on Latterly content. Why know Vim? Because I love my life. Because I love my life. Group, it says, haven't coded for months, just started a Next.js project, having fun so far. We love to hear it. Thanks for being here. I hope you will join the Discord for Latterly, latterly.io, link is in the bio, and keep us updated on the outcomes. Okay, so specializations, maybe it's under resume optimization. No? Might not be, it might not be anywhere on here. Let's go to google.com, site latterly.io, accessibility. Here we go. Yeah, it was in here. Accessibility. Specializations can include. Did I type something incorrectly? I'm not sure. Samu says, got to go. See you tomorrow. See you, Samu. Thanks for being here. See also. Qualified job titles. There it is. Okay. Zylson says, new to tech here. Coding seems hard, but I definitely find it interesting. I think you're exactly right. I think it is hard and it is interesting. One of the nice things about being difficult is that it is generally fairly well paid to compensate for that difficulty. What's the job count, Kotlin versus Java? I really like Kotlin a lot more, but I think the job count's going to be smaller. 600 plus, yeah, it's going to get blown out of the water, isn't it? 19K, yeah. All right. Zalson says, agree, making a career change. I've always wanted to work in tech. You're in the right place. I'm a career changer myself. A lot of the community is self-taught or career changers or both. So I definitely hope you'll check out latterly.io. There's a checklist to help you learn to code and land your first role. And there's a Discord where you can come chat. Appreciate it. You got it. Surround myself with like-minded individuals. 100%. It's a big tip. It's a big move. Common specializations are also mentioned alongside qualified job titles and Latterly's article on top job boards. Boom. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Thanks for the follow. Whoa, it's after midnight. We made it. We made it, gang. Conclusion, selecting the next skill to develop is a strategic process that requires careful consideration of multiple factors. By following this multi-stage approach, you can optimize your learning efforts and maximize your career growth. Remember to continuously evaluate and adjust your skill development plan as your career progresses. Yo, I mean, slay on slay. Slay on slay. So this will be finally a docs commit. This docs is going to be blog selecting next skill. Now we'll go back here. What did I say that I closed? 213. Yep. Improved link style. We got it. And we partialed 63. Cool. I think this is all correct. I'll say ready for review. Shout out to Max. What was the guy's? Thanks for sharing the live. Okay, so this looks good. Let's check out the preview environment. Come over here, we go to the blog. I have selecting your next skill to develop by John Vanderveer, Max Tapp. Cool. Cool. Selecting your next skill. Links are working. Links are working. Let's make sure step 1, step 2, step 3, 4, 5. All right, great. 5 steps. Selecting your next skill to develop. I almost want to say like in 5 steps, but we'll leave it at that. Here's a step-by-step guide. 5-step process. Let's do that. Make it a 5-step process. Bazinga. All right, y'all. I think we did it. Thanks so much for being here, and you'll be able to check out this blog article. It's going to go live in the next hour. I mean, it's past midnight on the East Coast, so maybe you'll just read it tomorrow. But also, if you've been here for the past 3 hours, you will have already read it. But you can share it with a friend. That's a new thing that you'll be able to do. And then maybe if you're a late joiner and you didn't get all the way through it, you can check it out tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Hope you'll follow the page and see you.